appreciate everybody having us out today. Like she said, I'm Ross Hamill, this is my brother Jacob, and we run a high-end video company called Hamill Bros Studios, and we specialize in marketing with commercial, corporate, and promotional films, and we do a lot of work with nonprofits. So 7 years ago when I started this business, I was scraping for any job I could get my hands on, $200 to $300, weddings, little dinky commercials, things like that. And within the last, I'd say 3 years, we've landed some of the biggest clients we've ever had. Some that you would be familiar with, Pennzoil, Shell, Oculus by Facebook, Oxy is a rather large oil company. So we're working with multi-billion-dollar international companies. And I chalked that up to pretty much three things outside of us learning our trade and investing in our education. The first thing is know what you are, and I think this applies to everybody in small business. These points apply to everybody in small business and entrepreneurs. So know what you are. The second point is know what you're not. And the third point is learning the power of no or standing up for yourself. So the first point, knowing what you are. Like I said, when I first started off, I was just doing anything I could to just bring in jobs. I would shoot literally anything I could point a camera at. And it didn't take long before I started to burn out. And I was thinking, wow, okay, this just isn't my thing. And so what I ended up doing was I sat down and I thought to myself, why did I get into shooting video in the first place? And initially, it started about 18 years ago when I was in high school. I had a teacher who made us do video projects. And I remember sitting in class, it was my sophomore year, and I'm watching the example videos, and I'm wanting to pound my head on the desk because they were so bad. We all remember those. It's like, God, just go to the next one, please. And so I sat there, and I knew that anybody could do better than this. These people aren't even trying. So I decided I was going to, at least try to do something funny and informative, because that was the whole point, right? Show videos people could learn. And so I started looking back on that, and I realized that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to create fun content. I wanted to create, funny, dramatic, but stuff that sucks people in, and at the end of it, they're going, yeah, that was cool. At the very least, if they're not, splitting their gut laughing. So that takes me to the next point, and this one I feel like it's really hard for, entrepreneurs and small business owners, know what you're not. So, I was shooting weddings, dinky commercials, and like I said, I was almost burning out. I hated doing weddings. I still hate doing weddings. Except on the rare occasion where it's a really close friend and we don't want somebody else to destroy their day. We want to be the ones that destroy it. So, we take on maybe one wedding a year. But it's a very rare occasion. And so we figured out that, we don't want to do weddings. We don't want to do local commercials where you're panning and scanning the store and you have a guy pointing his finger and yelling at you. That's not what we do. We got into this because we didn't like those ads. And so once we figured out that that's what we didn't want to do, we started finding jobs that would bring us energy instead of landing jobs that would suck the energy out of us. And the smaller jobs we were losing money on them. Once we would, you land a gig for $300, it takes you 2 weeks. Well, that's already half of minimum wage. And then add to that, we were traveling to Midland, we were traveling to San Angelo. Once you take out your travel expenses, it's like, okay, I literally made no money on this job. So the third point, learning the power of no, or standing up for yourself. This one for us was really, really difficult because we don't want to disappoint our clients. And this isn't so much saying no just directly to our clients, although there can be a time when that happens. This is more saying no to yourself. If you're presented with a job and it's not what you want to do, and it's not something that you have to do to keep your lights on, it's okay to say no. it's okay to say that's not what we do. The same thing with us in weddings. We get asked about weddings all the time, and we tell people that's not what we do. And so far, we've not had anybody get angry at us over it. So the other part of learning the power of no, or standing up for yourself, is we've all dealt with clients who you give them an inch and they want to take a mile. And how many people have dealt with those kind of people? Okay, yeah. Not everybody's raising their hands, and somebody's not being honest. You send out a job, or you send out a bid, and they're like, okay, cool. They sign the agreement, you jump in on the job, and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we need you to, I know you're already shooting for us for 9 days, but we need you to edit a 30-minute video beforehand. That wasn't part of the agreement. But it's okay to say that's not part of the agreement. The other thing, and this one has really helped us a lot, is standing up for ourselves. When last year we had a client down in Midland, Odessa, who wanted us to produce some Super Bowl ads for them to run locally. I wish they were running nationally, but they're running locally. And he sat down with both of us and he said, okay, so my budget is between $5,000 and $10,000 for each ad. I want you to pitch me 4 ads, and we're just looking, we're looking to see who can give us the best product. So he gave us some concepts. We took those, we wrote scripts, we budgeted everything out, sent him the budget, and he came back and said, well, I've talked to some of your competition, and they're all saying that you guys are pricing way too high. We were probably 75% of his budget, so we came in well under his top end. And so instead of going, okay, well, we can do that for $5,000, we just responded with, okay, that's fine. If you can find somebody that will deliver what you want us to deliver for a cheaper price, by all means, do it. But I can tell you, I know the competitors in your market, and nobody is going to give you what you want. Otherwise, you wouldn't be talking to us. So he sat on it for a couple weeks. We were both, we were trying not to pull out our hair, going, okay, well, let's just call him back down. And he was pushing real hard, and I was like, dude, I just got a gut feeling if we hold out on this guy, he's going to come back. 2 weeks later, he emails us and said, okay, let's just cut this and this from the script. It's going to bump the budget down a little bit, and they weren't things that would hurt the integrity of the ad. And we still, it was like, what, $200 or $300 off a total budget that he cut out, and he was happy. So flash forward to this year, he comes back and he says, okay, I love what you guys did last year. I want you to produce 2 more ads. Send me 4 ideas and send me budgets. So we come up with ideas, send them to him. He's like, oh, I love all of these. Now what are the budgets? Send him the budgets. They were all over $2,000 more than what we had last year. And about 3 days later, he says, okay, we want these 2. How do we get started? No negotiating whatsoever, because we said, no, we're not going to back down. We understand the value of our product. We understand what we're worth, and we are going to stand up for ourselves, even if you want to bully us. And he's the kind of guy that he pushes just to push. We've had some other interactions with him, and it's a game for him now, and it's a fun game because I don't get to push really hard back with some of my clients like I do him. But again, learning the power of no, you find what you're worth, and you really, when you stand up for yourself, it gives you confidence. So the 3 points: know what you are, find the jobs that give you energy. Know what you're not, get rid of the jobs that don't give you energy. And learn the power of no, stand up for yourself. That way you figure out what you're worth. Any questions?
So, where did you go to high school?
I went to Midland Christian. We both grew up Odessa, went to high school in Midland.
Okay. And it was in around 10th grade you started becoming interested in filming and video production?
Yes, and it was more out of necessity. I didn't have a choice whether I got to do the projects or not. They were mandatory, but I'm glad they were because I had a blast with the first one. And actually that Spanish teacher, she retired 3 or 4 years ago, And she was using my Spanish video from all the way back in the late 90s to show her kids, okay, this is how you make it fun. So that was very flattering.
That's cool. And how did you guys finance getting started with your business?
We didn't actually finance. We worked and we saved up, and every little bit extra we could come up with, we bought equipment. We did have one client. Thank you. We did have one client who really, it was a freak accident. They came to us and said, okay, we want to produce 2 ads, and our budget's $15,000 a piece. Of course, at that point, we were like, we wouldn't know what to do with a $15,000 budget, but if that's what y'all want to spend, we'll spend it. And so we bought probably $20,000 worth a year. But we have, I think the only thing that we borrowed money for was our last trailer, and we borrowed it from our grandmother because she wanted to help put some money into our business. But other than that, we've never borrowed a dime towards our business, and we own absolutely everything. In a bad month, nobody's taking my gear.
Anybody, I don't want to monopolize here, but how many folks do you have working for you?
It's just us 2 full-time. We have some interns, or had some interns. I guess they're all moving off now that they've graduated. But if the job was small, they could come get some experience. If it was something bigger, we would hire them on, just subcontract them. And if it's a really big job, we have connections out in Dallas, LA, all over the place. That if we need a top-level professional to, literally, they have guys who their entire job is running extension cords. So if we get to that level, then we're hiring people who are unionized to do that kind of stuff. But it's all subcontract.
I have a question.
Good.
How'd you guys get into some of the bigger companies? What was the first one and how'd that pan out?
And the first one, are you familiar with the Sewell dealerships down in Odessa? We literally we were down in Odessa, and we have a friend who is a pre-owned salesman, or he was, is he still?
I think he's still pre-owned.
Okay. And we just asked him, who do we need to talk to? Because I don't see that y'all are doing a whole lot of advertising. He said, well, there's some guys, they're across the street, just go talk to them if you can find them. So we went in and sat down with them, and they told us, we literally started here 2 weeks ago, and we were looking for production out of Austin because we didn't think anybody around here could do what we're wanting, but we see your demo reel, and we know that you guys can do exactly what we want. So that one was just kind of we walked in and the stars aligned. Beyond that, we've done a lot of work with, there was a show here called Car Chasers that was, it was CNBC. And we got plugged in with the stars and producers of that show, and they got us in with the Shell and Pennzoil stuff this year. We spent 9 days in Vegas, which is way too much time in Vegas.
Especially 18 to 20 hours a day in Vegas.
Yeah, but that's how we got plugged in there, because they started a podcast that is getting funded by Pennzoil, and it kind of trickled up from there. We started we were on the ground floor when they started the podcast with them, shooting some video stuff. And beyond that, I worked in radio for 2 or 3 years at, I guess now it's Town Square Media. At that point, I don't remember what it was at that point, but just knowing people up there.
Yeah.
And
the connections and the community and making friends with people will always bring you much more business than, you can spend a lot on marketing, and it can do a lot of good for you to bring in new clients, but getting the work that we do in the industry that we're in, it is more about who you know and how you know them. Because we've got friends that are working for FX, which is now owned by Disney, and we have friends that are shooting multi-million-dollar feature films that you see every day, and knowing those guys and them saying, oh, hey, you know what, I have a thing out in Dallas, so do you guys want to come do this? Or shooting for Oculus. We have one of our friends does developer highlights, so they fly all over the world shooting with these game developers. And so Oculus was doing their 4th annual developer conference in San Jose. And they were like, hey, you guys need to come and do that with us. So it's really about who you know, especially in our industry. So, in the back.
Yeah, I've got 2 questions. One, you said you've invested in your education.
Mhm.
What did y'all do to do that?
We are, oh man, what did we do? It's, a lot of it was time investment.
Yeah.
We started off just watching YouTube stuff, people doing what we were wanting to do, buying into courses that were more focused, and we were part of an online community that was started by a guy, his name's Shane Rolla, and anybody in here see the movie Terminator Salvation with Christian Bale? He was the guy that shot that movie. He just had a movie released on Netflix called Babysitter. And so if you saw that, he shot that movie. And in 2014, he started this community, and I bought into it because I'd been hearing about it for a year. And then he was doing a tour, came through Dallas, we got to meet him. And that's effectively how we invested in education. We found people who were willing to teach and who were doing what we wanted to do.
Yeah. And I think that was, for us, especially in the film industry, college will not do you anything. Now, if you go to UCLA, you will get connections, but everybody that I've talked to, neither of us finished school. It was kind of like, do I want to keep spending money on this and owe money on it for the rest of my life? Or do I want to finish up and just kind of say, that's it, I'm going to wash my hands of it. Obviously, if you're going to be an attorney, you're going to be any kind of medical field, please go to school, please, please. But we found out that it was better to get involved in communities that had that, and it's been a better money investment for us. We've done some workshops in LA, we've done workshops in Dallas, we've done them in Houston, the tour in Seattle, and met these guys from the industry. It's not like, oh, I have this professor that I had that was on the set of Men Who Stare at Goats. So he was now a professional in the film industry because he was on set as an extra. It's like, no, I've got the guy who shot Terminator Salvation that I can call and say, hey man, we're shooting this shot, what do you think is the best way to do it? He's like, well, I would do it this way. You're like, okay, well, we know you have rental companies where you are, and you can
You have
rent all the
$1 million
gear.
to spend, we don't have
Yeah,
that.
we don't have that kind of budget, what would you say? And he's like, oh, well then I would go to Home Depot and I'd buy this, and this, put it all together, throw it up, you're gonna look great. And it has changed our world, it's changed what we've done. I look back at projects we did 3 or 4 years ago and I'm like, okay. And then look at it now and it's like, okay, you get used to what you're doing, but it's a really good thing to look back at what you've done to see how far you've come.
So my second question was, being an advertising company, essentially, and you may have already spoken some to this, but how do you reconcile being an advertising company and saying that you don't advertise?
It's not that we don't advertise, we just don't advertise as much as our clients are often business to consumer.
Okay.
And we're business to business. It's really hard for us to market that, especially around here because, video production's a dime a dozen. It really is. Literally everybody in this room could shoot a commercial right now because you have a smartphone. And so it's difficult around here to market ourselves, but at the same time, this isn't our end market. So that's how we justify it, but at the same time, we can do things for just a time investment as opposed to a monetary investment for one of our customers. So we can shoot an ad for Facebook for ourselves, dump a couple $100 into it, and it's, our monetary investment is very small compared to theirs. So, but that's actually not a question we ever get because most of the time when people find us, it's either word of mouth or they looked us up on Google and they're like, oh, yeah, your website's pretty dope, man. So, anybody else?
I was just going to ask about your market. You've got some bigger companies, and and you say you've got the network and everything working for you. What is your ideal client as far as business goes? Do you have an ideal client?
Yes, somebody who understands that marketing is an investment, not just a cost of business, and somebody who either has a huge either they're extremely creative themselves, like legitimately creative, or somebody who's like, you know what? I like the kind of stuff you guys do. Here's the budget, make me happy. So, because those ones, we get to have a lot more fun with. This cartoon, we've done some ads for Brain Fleet with that character right in the middle, real life version, and that's how it started off. We sat down with the owner, and he said, you know, I just don't want, you know, y'all driving through my lot and somebody yelling at the camera. And so, do something funny, do something creative. I'm not creative, impress me. And so we shot our first ad for him. He was like, wow, that is really outside the box, but nobody else here is doing that.
Yeah.
So that's our ideal client. Beyond that, the other ideal client is somebody who has enough budget that I don't care what kind of input they want to have. You know, if you're going to pay me not to ask questions, I'll just do it. And
Yeah.
that's rent for 6 months.
Yeah, and it's nice, like he said, to find a client that finds it as an investment, and the ones that say, okay, like last year, he shot a mission trip for their church, and I was just kind of like, hey, I'm gonna come do it because I want the kids and all that stuff. And one of the church members came up and said, hey, could you come talk to me? We have this nursing home. It's not a nursing home. I'm not gonna call it that because people hate that word, but it is a nursing home. Can you come do some video for it? So we went and sat down with him. He's like, okay, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I thought this was a hobby, and I was going to give you $500, but you gave me a card. I looked you up. You're like super legit. So we're going to have to actually talk because I want to recognize that this is your life, and that is a super hard thing to do in video because it's a hobby, and creative stuff in general is a hobby. Like the guy I commissioned to do this art piece for Christmas this year. Like I told him, I was like, you tell me what it's going to cost, and if I ask for additional stuff, you are going to charge me for it. Because he wouldn't have. I could have done what we call scope creeping, where you have a scope contract, and you're like, oh, by the way, can you have this guy? Can you have the guy in the middle? Can you have the green screens in the back? Can you have, you know, and I could have gotten with it, but I understand that he is a professional that does this. He went to college to do it, and so finding people that treat us that same way and say, okay, you obviously spent your time doing this, it is your investment, and this is your well-being. It's nice working with business people who take that into effect, and small business is great because we're all that way. We all need to make what we're making, and we support small business with Small Business Saturday, and we do all that kind of stuff because it's our livelihood. And when you have a client that respects that instead of big medical company X who's coming down, we get this phone call all the time. Hi, yes, can I wanted to see if you have video services. Well, yes, we do. Okay, well, we've got a shoot where we're going to be interviewing some patients. We need a full lighting package. We need 4K, which is a big hot word right now. We need like audio. We need you to do the interview. And it's going to be like an 8-hour shoot. We'll book the location. Okay, what's your budget? Oh, we've got $400. Okay, well, you just came in at a quarter of my day rate, so I'll tell you what I can give you. $400. You can get us with a camera for 2 hours. No lighting, no audio. So you're gonna have to figure out how to budget that, but that's what we can do. And of course, they just are kind of like, hang on. Most of the time, they don't even really say, oh, they just hang out. It's awkward, but it's a thing that it's an industry that's taken advantage of a lot. Because there's a lot of guys that start out and they're like, oh my gosh, I can get $400 in one day, that's awesome. But like you said, the cost breakdown turns into, I just spent 12 hours on a wedding, I just spent 2 weeks editing it.
And I worked on a weekend.
And I worked on a weekend. And I got $500 in
And
like
I drove there.
Yeah, and drove there, wherever it is. And it's just the cost breakdown doesn't work. So the ideal client is somebody who recognizes that, understands it's an investment, and is glad to make it happen. Yes, sir.
I kind of have 2 questions, actually. Number one, playing on kind of what you were just saying, how do you avoid, like with kind of coming back to the standing up for yourself, avoid getting defensive versus kind of just showing confidence to say someone like that medical, you know, because, you know, you could easily go, are you kidding me? $400, that's like, you know, You know, you could easily get defensive with that.
Yeah,
I could
for
see,
sure.
especially like you said, in your industry where people take advantage of that. So
Yes.
what's y'all's approach?
We've been learning. For a
It
very
was
long
not
time.
easy at first. Yeah.
Pretty much, I just had to arrive at the conclusion that these people aren't gonna, they don't wanna pay for anything, and so I don't want them as a client. When I got that switch flipped, I don't want that client, then it's easy to say, no thanks,
The
good luck finding somebody.
other thing I would add to that is the best 3 words you can figure out in business is it's not personal. It's not. And like, there was a long time where we'd bid out a job and it's like, this is gonna be perfect. It's under the client's budget. It's gonna be great. The concepts are there. It's gonna be awesome. And they come back and they're like, or they don't even respond. And then you see a TV station ad and you're like, okay, they told me they didn't want to use a TV station. They told me this, they told me that. And it like affected me personally and I lost sleep over it. Got so frustrated. Why did I spend all of my time doing that for you so you could turn around and pay somebody $300 to do it and waste like all the time that I spent doing it? It's not personal. And most people are like, wow, I just don't know if I can, like my air conditioner went out in my business, I gotta pay for that. And a lot of people are scared of saying no. And so you just kind of say, okay, it's not personal. Thank you for your time. This is the budget. If you want to meet it, we're glad to work with you. If you can't, we understand, and have a nice day. And then it's confident. I'm not offended by it because 2017 and 2016 were the big years of being offended. I'm not offended by it. We're just going to move on with our lives.
Yeah.
And so you don't get defensive about it. You just say, listen, this is what I've spent my time on, this is how I've done it. And especially if you're doing a pitch, you know, you give them enough evidence that you've spent your time doing what you're doing. This is why I cost what I cost.
I like that. Okay, the second question has to do with kind of the client or the customer that comes to you and wants to tell you how to do your job. You kind of hit on this a little bit ago, you know, the person that thinks they know everything about your industry because they read it on some forum online on Reddit or watched a YouTube video, so all of a sudden they're video production experts, right?
Right.
And they want to tell you how to do your job and why your competition is going to outprice you or outbid you. So how do you approach that?
With the getting outbid, there's really not much you can do about that unless you can convince them that I'm not getting outbid, you're settling for a lower quality product.
Yeah.
So that's the way around that one. But as far as
Kind of the client you've already signed the contract with that, wants to do start telling you,
Yes.
well, no, this is how you need to shoot this, or this is the kind of light or the kind of camera you need to use.
Right.
And you want to be like, I'm the professional.
Yeah, we don't run into that a whole lot except with marketing agencies. No offense. Because there are, especially, we don't work with a whole lot of agencies up here, but down in the Midland, Odessa area, though, for the most part, the marketing agencies down there are people who failed at selling ads at the TV stations. And so they got a chip on their shoulder and decided, well, I'm just going to go out and do my own thing because they don't like the way I'm doing it, and they don't have happy clients. But as far as somebody telling us how to do our job, I try to find a very delicate way of saying, listen, you hired me to do a job. If you knew how to do this, you would be doing it yourself. And a lot of times that turns into, okay. And if that's not good enough, then I just ask them, are you not confident enough in my skills? Because if you're not confident, why did you hire us? If we're not going to be a good fit, that's okay. Just cancel the contract. But if you want the best of the best, then that's why you hired us. And since you're not a professional video production company, you're looking to the experts to do that. I mean, you don't tell your plumber how to,
Some people do.
Some do, exactly, yeah.
That's the problem.
But to that end, we typically figure out those people when we're meeting with them at the beginning.
Okay.
This person's going to be a butt to deal with, and their budget's not high enough. for me to put up with them being a butt.
Yeah, kind of like you said earlier, you learn quickly that they're not the client you wanted your client anyway, so
Right. Yeah.
you kind of quickly cut that
Yeah,
cord.
and the other thing is that we've figured out in the past couple of years is that the bigger the budget, typically, the more the client says, listen, I am paying you to do this job, you're gonna do it for me. And I expect the best from you because that's what I'm paying you for, but you're the professional, so you tell me what I need to do to make it happen. The ones that are like, I've got $500, we have been penny pinched, especially when we were doing weddings. We'd have brides moms following us around, and like, can you do this, can you do this, can you do this? But the biggest wedding I ever worked on, which was not with us, I was actually subcontracted out by a guy. It's a $6.5 million wedding in Midland.
Jesus.
And it was all spent on the tent that they built. They had chandeliers, they had live foliage, they had couches that they flew in from like Persia or somewhere. I mean, it was like big oil money. But nobody bothered us because this guy shoots 12 weddings a year. His client right before that was a Formula One racer in South France. They don't tell him what to do because they say, we hired you for this, you're the professional. So we don't really run into that a whole lot.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. We used to. Yes.
I'm sorry, I missed the first part. How long have y'all been in business?
7 years.
Yeah.
7 years
Right,
full
about
time.
7 years.
Okay, do y'all have staff? Is it just you?
It's just the
It's,
two of
it's
us.
just us two, anything beyond that we subcontract out.
Okay, so do you ever get subcontracted yourself?
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah, all the time.
And how do you do that? Do people like around the United States, is y'all are part of the group or something that they can see your work and see your reputation, references, and call you up, can you shoot this in this area for us?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's typically, a lot of our business is either by word of mouth, because there's several Facebook groups that we're in that are guys that do this on a scale much larger than we have, that'll say, hey, we've got a job out in Dallas, is that close to you? So I'm like, it's 300 miles away, but we can make it work. And then a lot of the times, there are companies like, earlier, we put up a slide like, these are our clients. One of them is Occidental Petroleum, or Oxy. And they do stuff all over the world. So what they'll do is they'll say, hey, we're doing a shoot out in Hobbs, New Mexico. You guys are the closest. What will you do for a half-day shoot, travel, and all that stuff? And we'll say, this is what we do. So yes, we subcontract all the time. Working for Shell Oil, Pennzoil, the Shell lubricant family back in November at SEMA, which is like the biggest car show in the world. That was a subcontract deal because the producer who was running the stage said, hey, we want to document what's going on at the stage and then edit that and send it to Shell Internal, where their locations are in Houston, all over the place. Would you guys give us a bid? So we gave them a bid everything out to the high, like not to the highest number, but what was appropriate for us to all make the money that we should make. And they were like, that's great. It's like, thank you,
Daniel,
Pennzoil.
we should have a bid higher.
Yeah.
Y'all took that a little too easily.
So, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions?
So it sounds like you guys mainly work with the private sector. Have you guys worked with a government entity or the public sector?